This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so in our previous class we started working with obj open, and in that we have seen making few changes to the section, right? Why? Because on clicking on the obj open, on clicking on submit button, whatever the values we are getting, that has to be displayed only if the customer is existing. Okay, and the below thing, sorry, yeah, so this section has to be visible only if the customer is entering few details here. If obj open is true, this has to be displayed, and if obj open is false, then this has to be displayed. So for that we have created one paragraph rule, and we have given this one. Okay, so now we have to apply the visibility conditions. So this dynamic layout has to be visible if customer is not existing, and this has to be visible if customer is existing. So for that, what I have to do, I'll be creating one flag for that. Flag meaning one boolean expression, sorry, one boolean property like checkbox. So if that value, if obj open is true, then that expression will be, that property will be true. Okay, if customer is not existing, then I'll be setting the false for that particular property, and I can able to give it here as an input. So the first thing is, on clicking on search button, I should be doing, what I should be doing is I have to make this visible or make this visible. So for that I have to make this dynamically visible, so that I will be creating one property. Okay, so true or false property I will be creating, like is customer existing. Customer exists is one of the property I want to create, and that will be like in true or false. So if the customer is existing, then the value will be true. If the customer is not existing, that value will be false. So we have to make it either true or false using the activity that we'll discuss later. So if the customer is existing, this has to be visible. If the customer is not existing, this has to be visible. Okay, so for that I'm trying to create new property, and I'll be setting the value like true or false during runtime based on the output of obj open. If the obj open is failing, then customer exist will be false, then this will be visible. Okay, if obj open is true, what are the thing we are discussing, like pxMethod status, if that is showing as good, meaning obj open is true, then I have to display this one. Okay, so for that I'm trying to create one flag property. So create data model property, customer exists, is customer existing, something like this. So create and open. So it should be like in true or false, right? So I'm saving this. So this is just a dummy property, and is based on this value I'll be putting the visibility, and this should be either true or false, that I will be setting using obj open. Okay, so I have to put the condition here. Condition, what should be the condition? If the property like is customer exists is equal to true, I have to make this true. If is customer exists equal to false, then I will be making this visibility. So as I told you, when we are working with conditions, instead of going for condition expressions, we will be directly going for when conditions wherever possible. Why? Because we are trying to create separate rules for that. If we're trying to create separate rule, I can able to use this wherever I want. Okay, so let me create one when condition. Getting my point now, both of you? So you understanding
Yes.
the approach? So I'm trying to create one when condition, and in that when condition I will be making the value, sorry, I'm trying to make the visibility using this when condition, like customer exists. So this is one of the when condition I'm trying to create. So the condition here should be is customer exists equal to true. So it should be small t only. Why? Because in clipboard it will be stored like this. Submit this. Okay, so I have created one when condition like is customer exists equal to true, and this should be this should be the visibility condition here. So make the visibility here. Visibility I'm going for when rule, and the when rule will be this one. If customer existing meaning if this property is equal to true, this value will be true or false based on the obj open output. It will be decided later. So I'm submitting this, and now here also I have to use one thing. I cannot able to use the same when condition in this situation. So for that, let me create one more when condition. Save as, giving something like customer not existing. Giving as false and saving it. So the thing is, I have created two when conditions, and based on this when conditions, I'm trying to put the visibility. So within that when condition, I'm trying to check for the property whether customer is existing or not. So this should be visible only if customer is not existing. Okay. So for that, I'm giving one more when condition. So we have applied for the conditions. Now the value like is customer exists, this value has to be set. It should be either set marked as true or false. That has to be decided based on the our obj open results. Okay. So if I run this, so I'm giving something like chg 58. So before that, let me trace it. So click on search. What happened? Okay, we have given the visibility, right? So that is blocking. That's okay. So now let me clear this and run again. Okay, so we are getting the activity executed, but we are not getting this below section displayed. Why? Because we have given one visibility like if customer exists equal to true, but there is no value assigned for that, right? So that's why we are not getting any values section displayed. So the thing what we have to observe here is, so on clicking on that button, this activity will be executed, and we can able to see step 1 is successful and step 2 is also successful. That is obj open is executing successfully. So that will be decided based on the step, as I told you. So at the end of each and every step, it is searching for the, it is setting the status. So there will be one OOTP method called pxMethod status that will be holding the value of this particular thing. So at the end of step number 1, pxMethod status value will be good. At the end of step method, at the end of step 2, okay, pxMethod status will be good. At the end of step 3, pxMethod status will be good. Okay, now again I'm clicking on search button. So now you see this activity. So at the end of first step status is good. At the end of second step, pxMethod status is good. So here we have to identify that pxMethod status is good, meaning at the end of obj open method, we have to set that value. What is that property value? Like is customer existing is the property, right? So at the end of my obj open, based on this particular pxMethod status property, that is fail or good, I have to assign the value to this particular property. So this is my property, right? So this value has to be given either true or false based on the output of this obj open. So I have to collect the pxMethod status value at the end of obj open. So if I collect it at the end of obj open, it will be marking as good in the first scenario. Then this will be true. This condition will be true. Okay. Then we can able to have this section displayed. And suppose if I'm collecting obj open at the end of second scenario, in the second scenario at the end of obj open, if we collect this pxMethod status value will be having like a fail. Okay, if I write one, sorry, if I set the value like customer exists is equal to false in that scenario, then value will be false, this one condition will be true, and this will be visible, this will be blocked. So ultimately what we have to do is we have to set that value, we have to set the property value like is customer existing. That value has to be assigned with either true or false at the end of obj open only. If you're trying to set the value at the end of page copy, by that time we'll be having pxMethod status as good only. No other way we can able to get the obj open output. So this is the only source. If you want to see whether obj open is perfectly working or not, you have to just check in the tracer and we have to identify one property, that is pxMethod status. At the end of obj open only that value will be recorded. Okay, so let me go to the activity and let me show you how to assign the property value during runtime. So if I'm running this activity, step number 1 will be successful. pxMethod status will be good. after this is completed. So after this is completed, it will be just checking for the when condition. Then after it will be then after step number 1 will be completed. So it has to come from left to right. So first initially it has to check for the looping. If there is no looping, it will be checking for the when condition. If no when conditions are applied, it has to apply the method name. Then after the value has to be assigned onto the page, then it has to come to the jump. So here jump also we are not providing anything. I'll tell you what is jump, what is when. So after this step 1 is completely done, it will be coming to the step 2. So after this is also completely done, it will be coming to the step 3. So what we have to do is we have to assign the value like is customer exist equal to true or false at the end of this particular step. Okay, so you can able to have this done by using conditions. We'll be having one jump value here and we'll be having some when also here. So I think we already discussed about looping. Looping meaning if you want to perform this step number 1 for number of times, meaning this has to be executed, this has to be looped for some number of times. For that we will be going for looping. Okay, so in the next concept we will discuss about looping also. And if you want to make this step number 1 to be executed on conditional basis, okay, this one condition has to be executed, sorry, this step method has to be executed on conditional basis. Then what we have to do, we have to apply when condition. If we just click on when, we have to enable this, then we can able to give our necessary when conditions whatever we want. So okay, if we provide any of the when condition, if that when condition is true, let me select anything. So if we select any of the when condition, then it will be enabled with then border color. You can able to observe. So you just observe the when condition in step number 2 and step number 1. So that will be circled with one border. So meaning when condition has been given to that particular step. So the thing is before executing the step number, I mean the method 1, it has to check for the when condition. If the when condition is true, then it will be coming to the step method. It will be executing the method. Then after it has to come to the jump. So jump is not enabled here. So if I click on jump, enable this, here also it's showing the same screen. Whatever the screen we clicked on when, we can able to see the same screen on jump also. Okay, let me select one more when condition. It is asking for a when condition, right? So if I click on submit button, what it is doing, so before executing the step number 1, it has to initially check for the looping. If there is no looping, it will be next going to the next thing like when condition. So it has to undergo all the when conditions what we are doing here. So if this particular when condition is true, it will be reaching here, then here, then it will be coming to last step, last thing. So here jump is enabled. Jump meaning it has to check for some more when conditions. That is the thing here. So in activities, if you want to apply for any of the conditions, that can be applied either in the when as well as the jump. Why? Because both the screens are same. You can able to see when is there, if true, true param, false, and this one. So similarly click on jump. We'll be getting the same screen again. Meaning we can able to apply the conditions either from when or from jump. So the thing is, if you want to perform anything before the step execution, before the particular step is executed, then we have to apply those in the when condition. And if you want to take any action after the step is executed, then we have to go for jump. Okay. So in this scenario, what I have to do, I have to just check for the conditions after my when condition, sorry, after my obj open is true. Okay. So after my step execution is completed, I'll be getting to know whether we are getting proper results or not. Okay, so that time I have to just check for the condition, for the when condition after the step execution. So in this scenario, what I have to do, I have to write one jump statement here. Jump meaning nothing, like just like in conditions. I'll show you. So let me disable this. So we have to understand where exactly the conditions to be applied. So what are all the conditions we can able to apply within this, I'll tell you. But you should be in a situation, this particular condition to be applied before the step or after the step. Okay. So if you apply it here, then this particular when condition will be applicable before the execution of this method only. If the when condition is true only, this method will be executed, else it will be completely skipping of the step number 1. It will be coming to directly coming to the step number 2. Even here also if you are providing any when conditions, that when conditions to be executed, if that is true only, obj open will be working, else it will not be working. Okay, so as I told you, this particular status value will be stored in one OOTB property called pxMethod status. So pxMethod status is one OOTB property which will be holding the value of that particular step status like good, bad, or warn anything. Okay, if we just try to capture this property value, pxMethod status property value at the end of this obj open, okay, then we will be having this value as fail. What I have to do? So here I have to just write one condition here. Okay, so in order to just check for this property value whether pxMethod status is fail, then I should be writing one when condition, and that when condition has to be called here. So let us suppose I have created one when condition. Okay, so in that when condition, what I wrote? So I wrote something like pxMethod status is fail. Okay, getting my point? So after the execution of this step number 2, after this is getting completed, I'm writing one when condition. In that when condition, I'm trying to check for pxMethod status. So instead of we creating separate one condition to just to check for pxMethod status value, there are some OOTB when conditions also. That is step status good. This is for pxMethod status as good. Step status fail. So these kind of OOTB when conditions will be there. So if we just double click on the when condition, or if we just open the when condition from here, we can able to see this property will be there. I think I showed yesterday. So this property will be there. So what they will be just checking in this when condition, whether it is true or false. The same thing here. So I have created one when condition, and in that I'm trying to check for one property value. If that property value is true, then this one condition will be true. Similarly, now I'm trying to just check for the property called pxMethod status. If that is true, it might be true or false. Correct now. So for that, I have to write one when condition. Instead of writing for when conditions, in order to just check for pxMethod status true or false, there are many OOTB methods, OOTB when conditions. So one such OOTB when condition is step status good. So this is one OOTB when condition. This will be true if pxMethod status is good. This will be true if pxMethod status is failing. Okay, if pxMethod status is good, this when condition will be true. Similarly, this condition will be failing. If this is good, this will be true, this will be false. Suppose if this is fail, if pxMethod status is fail, then this will be true and this will be false. Understanding now, both of you? Want me to explain anywhere? Clear, right? Uma and Tulani?
No, clear. Yeah, clear.
Yeah.
Tulani also? Okay. So now what we have to do is, there is already one when condition written. I need not write any when condition. Suppose if I just use that when condition at the end of this particular step number 2, if we use it before the step number 2, then before during execution, that when condition is to be executed. That when condition will be like, if I use this step status good or fail, then that when condition has to be checked. That when condition value will be either true or false. It will be always true. Why? Because it will be pxMethod status will be good at the end of step number 1. Okay, page name will be created successfully. So pxMethod status will be good all the time. And if you use it before, there is no use for us. I cannot able to make this. I cannot able to make this particular value. Is cust exists this value that I cannot able to set it perfectly. So that is the reason at the end of this particular step number 2, we have to just check for the condition like pxMethod status. Okay, so if I just click on jump or when condition, we'll be getting few things. We have to first enable this. If we just enable this, we'll be getting this circle enabled, and here it will be asking some when conditions. Okay, so here we can able to provide when conditions like step status. As I told you, there are OOTB when conditions. If I use this step status good, what it has to check after this, when after the step number 2 has been executed successfully. Why? Because I'm trying to use this at the jump statement. So this will be executed successfully, and before going to the step number 3, it will be just it has been enabled with the jump statement. Okay, then it has to just check for the when conditions within that. So it will be just checking for this when condition, step status fail. So what will be there in this when condition? It will be just checking whether pxMethod status is fail or good. Okay, if pxMethod status is fail, if obj open results are not correctly coming, then it will be fail. Then this when condition will be true. Correct now. So if this when condition is true, then you can able to apply something. If any of the when condition is true, if it is true, then what are the action you want to take? We have to select anything. If this particular when condition is becoming false, what is the action you want to take? Okay. So now let me tell you what are all these options. So this will be common everywhere. I mean here also. both the screens are same. Okay, if any of the when condition given, then it will be just checking if it is true. If it is true, meaning suppose I'm giving something like when condition number 1. Okay, if condition number 1 is true, then we are selecting something like continue once. If continue once is given, then it has to just check for the another when condition. I can able to provide n number of when conditions also, like 2, 3, 4. If I have 4 when conditions, it has to just check in the same order. Before executing this step number 2, it has to just initially check for the when conditions, and that too here it has to initially first check for the condition number 1. So in the condition number 1, it will be if the when condition is true, then I'm trying to make this to continue for the whens. It will be just checking for all the when conditions parallelly. Okay. Similarly, if that is false, if continue once is given, it has to check for the rest of the when conditions of that particular enabled step. Now, if I'm trying to give skip once, so what it has to do? Initially, when condition number 1 has to be executed. If that is true, it will be skipping once. So if I have some 100 of when conditions below this, it will be skipping all the when conditions. Okay. If this is failing, if this first when condition is failing, what it has to do? It is again showing me to continue all the ones. So continue ones meaning ultimately it has to continue for all the when conditions within that step. If I'm skipping when, then rest all the when conditions will be skipped off. Suppose I'm giving something like continue ones, and in the second step I'm giving something like continue skip ones. So skip when condition 1 will be executed if it is true, as per this condition, as per the statement, second when condition to be executed, and if this is true, it has to skip all the whens below. If all the when conditions are given, that has to be skipped off. That is the concept here. Okay, suppose if you're selecting something like jump to later step, so if this particular when condition is true, then I want to jump to the next step or any other step. For that we have to provide the step number, like I'm giving something like jump or anything, any meaningful value, whatever you want. It's completely case sensitive. If you are providing capital letters here, so if I click on submit button, what it has to do? If this particular first when condition is true, then I want to jump to the later step like JMP. Okay, I'm giving something like JMP here. What it will be doing? It will be completely skipping off step number 3. Why? Because if this when condition is true, it has to jump to the next statement, that is JMP. So that is the importance of this labeling. Okay, now we understood now. Suppose if this is true, if one condition is true, and if you want to, if you're giving like this, and if you're giving like this, what it will be doing is, if this first when condition is true, it will be checking for the below when conditions. If first when condition is false, if it is false only, it has to jump to the later step. Okay, that is one thing. If you provide anything like skip step, if this first when condition is true, then what it has to do? It has to skip the steps. Let me give like this. I'm giving something like this. Let us say. So first one condition is true, then it will be checking for the second condition. Even if that is true, it will be just checking for the third condition. If the fourth condition is true, then I'm giving skip step. Skip step meaning this whole step will be skipped off. If any of the thing it is encountering like skip step, then obj open will not be executed. Why? Because I'm trying to give one condition here, and if any of the conditions are true, I'm trying to skip the whole step. Obj open will not be executed if this one condition is true. Okay, it will be directly showing the third step. After the step number 1, it will not execute the step number 2, it will be directly executing the step number 3, and after step 3 it will be executing step number 4 also. It will not be bothering about this label. Okay, so if any of the command has been given to jump to the particular label, it will be jumping, but this is not a criteria to make this particular step to be enabled or not, to be executed or not. After step number 3, it will be automatically executing step number 4 also. So that is one thing. And if we just click on exit iteration, so when this one condition is true, it will be coming out of the loop. As I told you, if the loop is enabled, okay, if the loop is enabled, and if you want to make this particular step to be executed for 100 times, so usually what we'll be doing is, if I want to send one mail to the customer, I'll be just writing one activity like obj open, then I will be pulling that particular email ID and I'll be sending one customized mail. Okay, suppose if I have some thousands of customer email IDs with me, and every month on the first I have to send one e statement for that particular customers. To all my customers, like 1,000 people, I have to send my e-bank statement for them automatically. Then what we have to do, we'll be making this particular step number 2 to be executed for 1,000 times. For those many records we have, those many times this particular step 2 has to be executed, and it will be interacting and pulling all the data. Okay, so if it is encountering step last thing like 1,000th record, then if I want to exit the iteration, then we can able to give this. Suppose if you want to exit in the step number 1 only, you can able to do. So ultimately, if we are providing like exit iteration, it will be coming out of the iteration. If this particular when condition is true, then if you are giving like exit iteration, it will be coming out of the loop, and then after it will be executing the next step. Okay, if you are giving like exit activity, then what it has to do, when this condition is true, then it will be it will be exiting from the whole activity. Rest of the steps will not be executed. Okay, so this is the concept. Okay, so if you are getting a chance to practice it, or sorry, if you are getting a chance to work on all this practically or not, better to learn all this. So in the real time also, we may or may not use all these steps, but based on the business requirement, will be forced to work on this. You understood, no? All these things. The same thing we'll be having here also. So if you just click on jump statement, we have to provide the label here, and that has to be displayed. Based on that, it will be jumping to that particular value, particular step. Then only it will be executed. Okay, so now the thing what we have to do here to implement here is I have to apply few conditions. I have to apply few conditions at the end of the step. After the step number is executed only, I have to just check for one pxMethod status value, and for that I have already written one. There is already one OOTB activity, and just I'm trying to check for that value. Step status fail. Okay, so if I just if I just click on submit, what it will be doing, initially step number 1 will be executed, then after step number 2 will be executed, and here it will be just checking whether step status fail is true or false. So if you are getting proper results, okay, if you are getting proper results, step status fail, this particular when condition will be failing. Okay, if this when condition is failing, then it will be executing once as per the statement. Once meaning there are no once again, so it has to come to the step number 3. It will be copying the data, and it has to remove the page. So this is the thing. Okay, so now what I have to do is, if the step number if the step status is failing, is not failing, if I'm getting proper results, then this when condition will not work, right? Getting my point now? If you are getting proper results, then pxMethod status value will be good. Ultimately, this when condition will be failing. Okay, this when condition will be failing, then it will be coming to the step number 3, and here I want to make the value like true here. So this is the value I want to make it true if the pxMethod status is good. So let me add one more step here at the bottom. I'm setting the value like property, setting the property I'm setting the property value and assigning it like is customer X is equal to true. Okay, do you agree with this? So the thing what we're trying to do is, I'm trying to execute step number 1, then after in the step number 2, if the results are perfectly okay, then if we are getting any kind of results, then I'll be setting the value like customer value is equal to true. Okay, suppose if we are getting any bad results, meaning if pxMethod status is failing, then when this when condition has to be true. So this when condition has to be true, then we have to perform something here. Else, if this is true, it will be continuing for the when condition. Still there are no when conditions, it will be doing the same thing. It will be again executing all the steps. So if you're not getting any results in the obj open, I should not be assigning this value. It should be false. That is my first thing. And second thing is, I need not again copy the page. Why? Because this page will not be having any data. Obj open results are to be pasted onto this page, right? If obj open is failing, there is no concept of executing the step number 3, 4, and 5 also. 5 is okay. Step number 2 and step number 3 and 4 need not be executed. Okay, for that what I'm trying to do is, if this particular step, if the particular when condition is true, I'm trying to exit the activity. I need not again run the step number 3 as well as the 4. Okay, you understood this, no? So after obj open has been executed, it has to just check for the when condition. So this when condition will be true if px method status is false, fail. Okay, this when condition will be failing if px method status is good. So ultimately, if px method status is good, this jump condition will not be executed, and it will be setting the value like is customer exists equal to true. Then after I'll be copying the whole data, then I can able to get the details ready displayed. So this is the positive scenario. You understood about the positive scenario, right? Suppose if I'm trying to provide some dummy data using this obj open, px method status value will be failing. So if it is coming to the step last thing, it has to execute this when condition. If the px method status value is failing, this when condition will be becoming true. If this is true, sorry, if this is true, it has to exit the activity. Okay, it has to exit the activity. I need not perform step number 3 and 4. Okay, step number 3 need not be true, right? If that is true. Okay, if that particular when condition is becoming true, I need not execute the step number 3. Okay, so let me run it. Let me run till here now. So you understood now what I'm trying to do? Any doubts? So this is still not completed. So I'm giving something like CHG 58. So before that, let me trace it. So I'm clearing. So I'm just clicking on search button. We're getting these values displayed perfectly. The thing is, step number 1 is true, expected. Let me open this. So step number 1 is good, 2 is good, 2 meaning obj open is also good. Then obj open is good. Then it is not executing any when condition. I mean, when conditions are not true here. So it is executing step number 3. Step number 3 meaning it is not exiting from the activity. If this particular when condition is true, then it has to exit the activity. That is not doing here. Step number 3 is successful. In the step number 3, I'm trying to set the value of property value is customer exist equal to true. So that is the reason we are getting the when condition as true, that the section display when condition. That is the reason this one condition will be true and this will be displayed. Okay. So this is for the positive scenario. Now let us check for the negative. Negative should be, I'm doing something like this. Okay, I'm giving something like this. Okay, now click on search. I already clicked on, but nothing is happening. What it is happening, what it is doing here is step number 1 has been executed successfully. Okay, step 2 has been executed successfully, and based on this output level, it is directly executing the activity. We can able to see it here. Okay, so this is working fine. So this is working fine, but I'm not able to see the value. Why? Because we are not setting back the property value. If we just click on clipboard now, if I just click on clipboard, so is customer exist value will be true all the time. Why? Because we are not setting it back to false. Okay, so if the customer is not existing, I have to set it to false, but we are not providing anywhere to be false. So if it is true, we are setting the value as in true. That is working fine now. And if it is becoming false, once it is getting updated in the clipboard, it will not be changed. Okay, is exist equal to true is updated in the clipboard. So this will not be changed unless I change it manually like false. So for that, before executing this activity only, okay, I'm trying to add one more step to make this property set value, to make this value false all the time. So this is just one way. You can able to achieve the same thing in many ways. So activity these are customized, right? So now if I just give like this, for every time we will be having this value as false only. Okay, for every time this value will be coming like in false, and we will not be having that value as true. Okay, then we will not be showing this all the time. Okay, now let me run it. Sorry. So let me refresh this and put it in the tracer and show you. So I'm giving something like CHG, some other thing. So before that, let me put the tracer, clear this, and search one. So we are getting it perfectly. The thing is, let us see what it is doing. So initially, step number 1 will be executed, and step number 2, that is property value is customer exists equal to false. So that is the thing I'm doing here. So the purpose of we setting the value like is customer exists equal to false initially will be we can able to see in the second scenario. I'll tell you. So customer exists equal to false, then the second one condition will be displayed, and it will be displaying the bottom part like customer does not exist. That will be true and that will not be displayed. And here using this obj open we are failing it. So in this scenario this is exactly working. Okay, now let me run the other approach. I'm giving it like 58, the tracer. Okay, just click on search. So now we are getting this value and that value has been hidden. The error message has been hidden. The thing what it is doing is, so initially whenever we are executing this activity, page new has been executed successfully, and property set like is customer exist equal to false. Even that I'm doing here. So customer existing is equal to false, that is happening, and obj open here, it is pulling the perfect results. Once it is getting the perfect results, again I'm trying to set the value like property is customer is equal to true here. Okay, so this value we are overwriting it here. So did you understand the importance of rewriting it this one? So I'm commenting it. So let me refresh this. Search. I'm giving some dummy value. So we are not getting. Why? Because we are not setting the value like is false anywhere. And if we provide it like anything, like correct value, if we provide any correct value, we'll be getting the things here. Suppose if we provide any other dummy value, once the value like is cust is equal to true has been updated in the clipboard, that will not be changed. Why? Because we are not changing it anywhere. So for that, even further, this will not be working in the negative scenario. Is customer exist value will be true all the time. In order to make the visibility to happen, that has to be made false. For that, before executing the activity only, I'm trying to set this value as false. Okay, if the when condition is true, sorry, if the obj open values are perfectly coming, then I'll be overwriting the value like true here. Okay, if you're not, if the obj open is failing, anyway this will be set to false, so the error message will be displayed. Okay, ultimately this activity will be executed on clicking on the search button of that activity, on search button of this one only. On clicking on search button, for sure I have to make this to be visible or the other error message to be visible. So that's why I'm trying to make this value false all the time for our safer side. For the safe side, I'm trying to make this false. Even though if you're giving the correct input also, initially we'll be making this as an false, and PRPC will be displaying the error message in for the fraction of milliseconds before executing the step number 3. So after executing step number 3, we are setting it back to true. So that's why we'll be having this thing displayed if we are giving the correct values. If we're not giving the correct values, this will not be open. I mean, this will not be executed. Obj open will not be executed, and for sure we're already setting this value as false now. So this will be visible all the time. Clear, both of you? Uma, you also know? Clear, no, Uma?
Yeah, Chandra.
Okay.
I understand.
So it will be like a bit confusing. You just try to follow the video and practice it again. It will be easy only. So there is nothing like much confusion here, just the practice, that's it. We can able to implement it in many ways also. So this is the way what I feel as a best practice. If you want to follow the other approach also, you can able to do that. We have that right on doing the on the activities. We can able to do it on activities, this part. Okay, clear now?
Yeah, clear.
Okay, we shall meet on Monday. Okay, yeah, we'll meet on Monday on the same time. I have another class now. We'll meet on Monday. Okay, bye.
Bye, Chandra.
Bye bye.